You got other artists like PFK Smooth, ACL Glow, you know, 448 Serve a lot. Like a lot of artists, man, they dropping, man. D-Mac, Spaz, a lot of niggas though, man. They working though, man. A lot of artists is working hard. They trying to get to where they need to be for real, for real.
In the brutal world of true crime, we often explore complex plots involving greed, revenge, or desperate schemes. But sometimes a life is extinguished over something so monumentally petty it defies comprehension. This is one of those cases. On June 27, 2023, the life of a rising young artist in Lumberton, North Carolina, was ended by a flash of gunfire on Beam Road. The victim was Tazari Monta Butler, known professionally as a 21-year-old rapper Lil JBO. He was not just a promising musical talent. He was a graduate of Lumberton High, a star athlete on the football and basketball courts, and, most importantly, a dedicated father to his two little girls. His life was a canvas of potential, beloved by his family and supported by his community. His death was sudden, violent, and devastating, reportedly ending with multiple shots fired. The immediate question that always follows such a tragedy is, why? Was this a territorial dispute? A drug deal gone wrong? The answer is far more jarring because the trigger was pulled not by a rival, but by his own best friend. Imagine the depth of that bond, a friendship built on loyalty, shared history, and mutual support, shattered instantaneously. The entire basis for this shocking act of betrayal was a single, tiny, insignificant digital gesture. Tazari Butler was murdered because he tapped the heart icon. He liked his best friend's wife's photo on Facebook. That small interaction on social media, a trivial expression of approval, was twisted into a catastrophic insult, igniting a lethal jealousy that would leave a young rapper dead and send waves through an entire community. This single digital like became the death warrant written by a jealous husband and executed by the hands of a traitor. The story you are about to hear is a terrifying look at how fragile trust is and how quickly a relationship can be destroyed when pride and digital insecurity mix with deadly violence. Stay with us, because we need to uncover the full story of Lil JBO, the man who had everything to lose, and the best friend who decided a social media post was worth more than a human life. Before Tazari Monta Butler was a tragic headline, he was a force of life and potential in Lumberton, North Carolina. His story wasn't defined by the violence that ended it. It was defined by the roles he played and the light he brought to those around him. Tazari was a familiar and well-regarded face in his hometown. He walked the halls and fields of Lumberton High School, leaving a legacy not just in academics, but on the court and the field. He was a dedicated athlete, pouring his energy into both the football and basketball teams. These weren't just hobbies. They were early reflections of his loyalty, teamwork, and drive, qualities that would define him later in life. He was a kind of young man his community rooted for, embodying the spirit and hope of a new generation. But as he moved past graduation, Tazari found his true passion in music. Under the stage name Lil JBO, he began carving out a path in the demanding world of rap. As a rising 21-year-old artist, he had already released several musical tracks, showcasing a talent that was quickly gaining attention. Music was his voice, his way of expressing the complexities of his life and his surroundings. He wasn't chasing fleeting fame. He was pursuing a dedicated artistic career, eager to transform his experiences into compelling art. Yet, for all his artistic aspirations, the title he held most sacred was that of father. Tazari was fiercely loyal to his two little girls. Every decision, every pursuit of his music career was undertaken with them in mind. He was a doting, present father whose commitment to his children was unwavering. To his parents and family, he was a beloved son, a source of pride, and a figure whose presence filled any room. He was described simply as being full of potential, a young man whose future stretched out bright and wide. We know much of this because Tazari was, like many of his generation, active on social media, including Instagram and Facebook. These platforms weren't just tools for promoting his music. They were a digital scrapbook of his life. His photos and posts painted a clear picture, a life balance between the grind of the music studio and the joy of fatherhood. His feed reflected the consistent community support he received, a testament to the positive impact of his death on his fans and peers. When Tazari was shot multiple times on Beam Road, it wasn't just a crime. It was an amputation of possibility. A successful athlete, a promising rapper, and a loving father, all gone in an instant. This tragedy resonated so deeply precisely because of who he was, a loyal man who was brutally taken from the people who loved him most. His life, and the promise it held, is a reason we must understand exactly how a simple action, a mere tap on a phone screen, could become the catalyst for such an unbelievable, violent end. To fully understand the tragedy of Lil JBO's murder, we have to look closely at the place where his life unfolded and ended, Lumberton, North Carolina. Lumberton is the heart of Robeson County, a small city nestled in the coastal plains region of the state. It's a place defined by its diverse community and a deep-rooted sense of history. This is not a distant, anonymous metropolis. It is a tight-knit environment where most people know each other or know of each other, creating a unique social structure where personal reputation and interpersonal relationships hold significant weight. This context is crucial because, in a setting like this, a public slight, even a digital one, can feel exponentially larger. While the city and its surrounding Robeson County hold immense community strength, the region has long been facing its own struggles with crime, particularly violent crime. The impact of this violence is not abstract. It deeply shapes the dynamics of the area. Robeson County historically contends with a high rate of homicides and other violent incidents, a reality that continually challenges law enforcement and community dynamics. This backdrop of entrenched violence means that personal disputes, when unchecked, carry an inherent, deadly risk of escalation. The weight of this environment adds a profound layer to the case of Lil JBO. In a place where tensions can run high and conflicts sometimes resolve themselves with devastating finality, the murder takes on a local significance. It wasn't just a crime. It was a profound blow to a community already grappling with loss and pain. The tragedy of Lil JBO's death is therefore a dual one: the loss of a valuable young man, and a harsh reminder of the ever-present consequences of violence in his home county. It underlines the issues of complex interpersonal relationships and the potential for personal disputes escalating to deadly violence within a place where reputation and personal pride are vital. Every great tragedy requires a foundation of trust that can be shattered. In this story, that foundation was a relationship between Tazari Butler, Lil JBO, and his close associate, Chamberlain Lee Oxendine. They were, by all accounts, best friends, a trusted, established bond built through shared experiences within their close-knit community. This was not a casual acquaintance. This was a kind of friendship that implies mutual support, shared secrets, and unwavering loyalty. In a community like Lumberton, where relationships hold so much currency, a best friend is an extension of family. This makes the upcoming betrayal not merely criminal, but an act of profound treachery. The depth of that presumed trust sets the stage for the intensity of the emotions that followed. When we are betrayed by an enemy, it hurts. When we are betrayed by a friend, it destroys. The destruction began with the poisonous influence of two powerful human emotions, jealousy and pride. Tazari was a young man with charisma and rising visibility. His life on social media, while focused on his music and fatherhood, was also public. For someone like Oxendine, watching a friend succeed and interact freely in the digital space can, for a fragile mind, trigger insecurity. This feeling wasn't about a rap beef or financial conflict. It was about the complex, often unspoken territory of personal honor and relationships. The digital spark that ignited this emotional tinderbox was incredibly simple. It was a digital equivalent of a nod, a brief moment of appreciation on a screen, yet it became the catalyst for a life being ended. Tazari was scrolling through Facebook and came across a photograph of his friend's wife. In a gesture common to billions of social media users every day, he clicked the icon. He gave the photo a like. This interaction, innocuous to almost anyone looking on, was immediately seized upon by Chamberlain Oxendine as an unbearable transgression. For him, the simple Facebook like was not an acknowledgement of a photo. It was a perceived invasion of his personal domain and a monumental challenge to his pride. In his mind, this digital action went far beyond courtesy. It was a fatal overstep. The interaction was instantly interpreted through the dark lens of jealousy and possessiveness. The digital space, which allowed for seemingly harmless interaction, had become a minefield. The ease with which Cesare could acknowledge the photo and the visibility of that action magnified the perceived insult 1,000-fold in Oxendine's eyes. It transformed a casual scroll into a fatal social media interaction. This moment marks a heartbreaking pivot of the entire case. The friendship, the loyalty, the history, all of it collapsed under the weight of an online gesture interpreted as the ultimate disrespect. What happened next was a swift, devastating realization of the consequences when profound, irrational rage is ignited by a trivial digital action. The betrayal was now complete, and the stage was set for a confrontation on the streets of Lumberton. The moment Lil JBO tapped that digital like, the fate of the friendship was sealed, not by the victim's intent, but by the killer's reaction. The friction was immediate, the atmosphere shifting from friendly camaraderie to corrosive accusation. The jealousy and possessiveness that had been quietly festering inside Chamberlain Oxendine found a sudden, violent release through a screen. The like acted as a trigger, launching a confrontation that rapidly moved from the digital realm to the physical. Arguments broke out, likely starting through messages or heated phone calls, escalating the tension from a petty slight to a matter of deep, unforgivable pride. For Oxendine, this was no longer about a photo. It was about authority and perceived public disrespect within their close circle. He saw Cesare's digital acknowledgement as a personal challenge that demanded a physical answer. The conflict moved with horrifying speed. The precise details of the immediate sequence of events remained known only to those involved, but the outcome was undeniable and irreversible. The mounting fury, fueled by the corrosive power of digital insecurity, boiled over, leading the two former friends to a fateful meeting. The location where the dispute reached its tragic climax was Beam Road in Lumberton, North Carolina. This was a local street, a place likely familiar to both men, now transformed into a horrific stage for senseless violence. It was here, on June 27, 2023, that the escalation from a digital click to a physical confrontation found its devastating end. What happened next was brutal. Amidst the rising emotional tide of the argument, the ultimate act of betrayal occurred. Chamberlain Oxendine, the best friend, the trusted confidant, decided to use lethal force. Lil JBO was shot multiple times. The violence was not contained. It was conclusive. A young life, full of potential as a father, a son, and a musician, was abruptly and violently extinguished over an act that, in the vastness of the digital world, amounts to absolutely nothing. Cesare Monte Butler was left dead on the asphalt of Beam Road, the victim of his best friend's inability to process a digital slight without resorting to extreme violence. The sight on Beam Road was not just a shooting. It was a final, devastating consequence of an emotional bomb detonated by a single social media post. The murder was a shocking display of how easily personal disputes can tragically escalate to deadly violence, especially when coupled with irrational jealousy and the toxic power of perceived public shame. The brutality, multiple shots fired, underscores the depth of the rage involved, rage that was entirely disproportionate to the offense. This tragic, violent climax immediately shifted the narrative from a local dispute to a first-degree murder investigation. It left the community reeling, struggling to reconcile the public face of an established friendship with the vicious reality of the betrayal. An event that began with a thumb tap ended with a trigger pull, leaving a grieving family, two fatherless girls, and a shocking answer to the question, what is a human life worth when weighed against a man's wounded pride? The search for justice and the truth behind this unbelievably bizarre motive was only just beginning. The gunfire on Beam Road did more than just end Cesare Butler's life. It tore a hole in the fabric of the Lumberton community, instantly triggering a massive homicide investigation. Law enforcement arrived at the scene and, faced with the tragic reality of a rising young rapper's murder, quickly mobilized to find the killer. Initial investigations rapidly pointed toward the unimaginable source of the violence. Chamberlain Lee Oxendine, the supposed best friend. The evidence, likely bolstered by witnesses and the known history of the escalating dispute, led authorities to formally name him as a suspect. An arrest warrant was issued for Oxendine for first-degree murder. However, the path to justice was neither swift nor smooth, leading to immediate tensions within the grieving community. Despite the clear identification of the suspect, there was a delay in the arrest, a period of uncertainty that only heightened the emotional distress of Lil JBO's family and fans. This created controversy over the motive and the pace of the investigation, drawing intense local criticism. People struggled to accept that a person who had been so close to the victim could commit such an atrocious act and remain at large, even for a short time. The case also introduced a secondary figure, Josh Tunlockloo, who was also identified as being possibly involved in the incident. The existence of a second potential participant suggested that this may not have been a purely solitary act of rage, adding complexity to the final moments of Lil JBO's life. As the legal wheels slowly turned, the community grappled with the emotional imprint of the tragedy. Lil JBO's social media, once a vibrant feed of his artistic life and fatherhood, became a memorial. The community support visible in his posts was now transformed into an outpouring of grief and call for justice. The murder underscored issues deeper than just the crime itself, touching upon the consequences of personal disputes escalating to deadly violence within tight-knit local circles. The tragedy was amplified by the youth and promise that had been stolen. For the family of Tazari Butler, every day the suspect remained free was an agony. The arrest eventually came, but the damage was already done, and the long, painful process of bringing the case through the legal system had begun. The community watched, demanding accountability for a murder that was driven by an act so bizarrely trivial, a single, fatal, digital interaction. The investigation quickly confirmed the identities of the suspects and the motive, but many questions still lingered about the actual execution of the crime. The full facts of this case are shocking, and if you find yourself captivated by stories of justice and betrayal, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It is the single best way to support this channel and ensure you don't miss our deep dive analysis into cases like this. And tell me, what do you think really happened here? Was this pure rage or a long-simmering resentment that merely used the Facebook as convenient excuse? The implications of this murder go beyond the courtroom. We need to examine the psychological lessons this tragedy holds for all of us. The tragedy of Tazari Butler offers a chilling lesson that transcends the specifics of his murder. This case is a profound examination of what happens when old-world issues like jealousy and pride collide with the hyperconnectivity and public visibility of the digital age. We are forced to ask, how did a harmless tap on a screen become a death sentence? The core insight here lies in the dangerous power of social media's impact on our emotional security. In the physical world, an appreciative glance at a friend's partner might be fleeting or easily ignored. In the digital world, that same action becomes permanent, trackable, and instantly broadcast to the viewer. For a jealous and possessive mind like Chamberlain Oxendine's, the Facebook wasn't a compliment. It was proof of an imagined disrespect and a public challenge to his dominance. The incident underscores a catastrophic risk of allowing trivial actions to trigger deadly consequences. The crime was driven not by the magnitude of the offense, but by the magnitude of the killer's wounded ego. It reveals a societal fault line where intense, complex interpersonal relationships are exposed to constant digital scrutiny, making it easier for personal disputes to become irreversibly inflated. This story is a stark reminder that technology has amplified our pettiness, giving a seemingly minor slight the potential to feel monumental. Lil JBO's life, filled with potential as a father and an artist, was tragically cut short, emphasizing the ultimate price of such irrational, uncontrolled rage. His death serves as a potent warning about the immediate escalation that can occur when pride is challenged in a highly visible arena, demonstrating the terrifying speed at which anger can move from a digital argument to fatal real-world violence. The lesson we take away from Lumberton is that while the crime was carried out in the physical world, the betrayal began in a place we all inhabit every day. It reminds us of profound need for emotional control in an era where our private feelings are constantly mediated and magnified by public platforms. The true crime here is not just a murder, but the senseless loss born out of a devastating failure to separate a digital interaction from the sanctity of a human life. The memory of Tazari Montez Butler, Lil JBO, is now tragically fused with the circumstances of his death. His vibrant potential as a loyal father to two little girls, the beloved son, the high school athlete, and the rising rapper, was violently erased on Beam Road, Lumberton, all because of an action that millions perform every single day without consequence. His case stands as one of the most unbelievable examples of modern betrayal. The friendship with Chamberlain Oxendine, a bond once defined by trust, was utterly poisoned by irrational jealousy over a trivial digital gesture. The brutality of the murder, shot multiple times, speaks volumes about a consuming, disproportionate rage that overtook a man consumed by his own wounded pride. As of this recording, the legal proceedings against Chamberlain Lee Oxendine, wanted for first-degree murder, and the matter of Josh Tunlockley's possible involvement will continue to unfold, seeking accountability for this unspeakable act. But no verdict, no sentence, can restore the future that was stolen from Tazari's family or mend the deep emotional imprint left on the Robeson County community. The overwhelming feeling this case leaves us with is a consequence of personal disputes escalating to deadly violence, amplified by the toxic scrutiny of social media. It is a powerful reminder that our actions online, however minor they may seem, can take on deadly significance in the mind of someone struggling with insecurity and possessiveness. Lil JBO was a young man with a life full of music, love, and potential. His tragedy forces us all to confront the volatility of relationships in the digital age. If this powerful story offered you a new insight into the terrifying psychology of jealousy and its intersection with technology, please share this video with someone who needs to hear this story. More importantly, leave your final thoughts on the tragedy in the comments below. What does this case tell us about the weight we assign to digital interactions versus the value of human life? Thank you for watching. We will continue to follow the legal developments in this case and bring you more stories that offer value and insight into the truth behind the crime.